I'm Mary Crowley, and this is Mostly Arts. Today, I'm pleased to have as my guest Carolyn Shattuck, artist. Carolyn has a story which I think is very interesting. Carolyn, why don't you talk about growing up and your interest in art?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and when I finished high school, you had options of what to do in terms of making a living, and in those days it was mainly you were either going into nursing, teaching, or be a secretary.
Right.
And or be a housewife.
Yes.
But at any rate, my parents had 5 kids and they couldn't afford to send us to college, and I also wanted to help people, so I went into nursing at the Montreal General Hospital School of Nursing, where I lived in a dorm there, and I spent 3 years and earned my RN and worked in psychiatry and also in public health. I liked both. But going back a little bit, when I was a young kid, I remember always sitting down at a table and making stuff.
Like name one thing.
Always working with my hands. Well, in those days we had the Miss Canada doll.
Oh.
And so
I love it.
And so I made clothes for her.
Oh, okay.
And then I also made doll houses. I made furniture.
You did a number of different things.
I did a lot. And then when I went to school, I always took art classes if I could, and showed my work, and it was just made me happy.
And you said when we were chatting before the show that frequently you were known as the class artist.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had an interest in art, but then you earned your RN. And how long were you a nurse?
I trained for 3 years, and then I worked for 3 years. 1 year in Montreal as a psych nurse on a ward, and then I got married and we moved to Hanover, New Hampshire, and I worked as a visiting nurse, and I drove around in my little VW Bug.
I had one of those.
To all these rural areas, and I loved meeting people on their terms in their homes and trying to help them.
Right.
And then my husband, I was taking art classes also during
Where?
that time.
At Dartmouth?
New Hampshire Art League.
Oh,
in Hanover.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I learned how. I think it was silk screening. I did. Basically, I came in through the back door. I didn't have any art training when I started making art. I just picked up classes here and there.
Okay.
And then we were. My husband was. What do you call it? He was drafted in the Vietnam War.
Oh.
So we lived in Okinawa, Japan, for 3 years.
You did. How interesting.
Yes, it definitely has affected my life because I was young and very impressionable, and I used to go to it's called an art gallery called the BOQ.
What does that mean?
Well, it's actually a military term for a building, and this guy had an art gallery, and I would go and have tea with him, and we would discuss the work. So
His work.
No, I mean everybody that artists he brought down from mainland Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then we went to Indianapolis, and I started taking more art classes.
And were they drawing, painting,
No,
collage?
there's no drawing involved in them. It was
No drawing?
printing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
doing a lot of printing.
So then you moved here?
Yes, we moved to Rutland, and I decided that, first of all, I got my external degree program, my external degree from Johnson State.
Okay.
By doing it externally. I actually never went on the campus.
Okay.
And so I needed about, 15 credits. And when I got that, it was a BFA. It was fun because I took color theory. I really liked that. It was
And you taught that at Castleton?
Yes, I did.
And I took it, and it was wonderful.
Yeah,
I learned more about color
Yeah.
in that class than
it
I'd
was
ever
very
known before.
informative.
Yeah.
I should teach it again. Actually.
Yes.
Yeah. I think.
I would take it again.
Yeah. Thank you. So anyway, I gathered myself together and decided to apply for an MFA at Bard College because it was setup where you went to school in the summertime for like 8 or 10 weeks, and then you did your work at home during the winter, because I had kids at home and I didn't
That's
want.
fantastic.
I know, I had to research that because I didn't
Yeah.
want to go, during the week,
No, right, exactly.
driving down to Massachusetts or whatever. So fortunately I got in, and that really was a very mind-boggling experience to be at Bard College with so many artists and teachers, and having that connection with New York City too. Listening
Yes.
to the artists who came in and spoke, and
So you had many experiences that influenced your work. I mean, Japan,
yes,
Johnson, Bard.
yeah.
All right, so then you're in Rutland.
Oh, and then Then I also took classes, which was very influential for me, at Bennington College in January, where there's that break where Art New England took over.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still happening now, but I learned a lot. Long
A
type
month
class.
or so,
No,
or what?
a week. It was for a month,
week.
but I took for a week,
Okay.
specific classes. Yeah. And I took drawing there.
Hooray, finally. Drawing, I have to say this. This program is about you, but I have to say this. I have such strong feelings. Drawing is essential. If drawing were required in the public schools, kids would go from their left brain, which is math and language, over to the right side of their brain, and they'd have an idea of how to create. But so often, there's no drawing offered.
Yeah.
I mean, mess around with paint
Yeah.
or cut out things.
Yeah, I agree with you,
But
yeah.
but drawing is essential. It's fine to cut out things, but the drawing, I think, if it comes first, it's
Well,
it's
I
better.
eventually ended up teaching at Castleton State College.
right.
I forget what it's called now, Vermont.
It doesn't matter. Castleton.
Okay, well, I taught drawing there.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a good experience.
All right. This is a dynamic work. So you went through a period when you painted, right?
Yes, when I finished with Bard, I had an MFA in painting, and I applied myself to working with paint.
Right. You want to talk about this ever so briefly?
Okay, so we traveled to South Africa. I really love going to Africa and going on safaris. If I have the opportunity, I just jump at it. But this was the first one, going to South Africa, and we were in a elephant refuge center, and we came out of it, and lo and behold, on the ground were these woven objects made out of telephone wire.
Oh.
And I was just amazed, all made by women. And women, during that month, that was to celebrate I think it might have been February, but they certainly had a difficult time being identified, as artists over there. So I just took pictures and I bought some, and then I came home and I said, well, I've always loved the still life. And
Right.
and this is the African woman. So
It's dynamic. I love your use of color.
thank you. I do. I love
The,
color.
the eye goes from one place to another. I sort of want to take it all in. There are large shapes, and then within the large shapes, there are all kinds of patterns. Oh my goodness. All right, so, all right, now, all right, you went through a period of painting. Years or?
No, about 5 years.
Okay.
And, but see, prior to that, I was a printmaker, whatever I defined myself as.
Okay.
Learning on my own. Then I took this class down at Bennington College where you could incorporate painting and printing. It was fantastic
Okay.
with fiber dyes.
Fiber dyes.
Yes, it's a process that's not really well known. Matter of fact, I did teach it at Castleton. So I started, and then I got into doing collage, and it's all on the horizontal surface still.
Right, yeah.
Because then I put it on the press. So I did that for quite a while, and I was sort of in love with the whole process. And then one year, Joan Curtis and I decided to journal, and so we'd share our journaling. And I think I just needed a break from making art in certain ways and just regroup myself.
Right.
So anyway, I was sharing my journaling with Joan, and she said, you should make a book out of that.
Ah,
And that was the
isn't that interesting?
Isn't it?
It is. Just one little question.
Yeah.
Changed the course of what you did as an artist.
Yeah. So I was babysitting my granddaughter in Thetford, Vermont every week and once a week, and I brought these books over how to make different structures in bookmaking. So when she went down for her nap, then I would go, okay, I'll teach myself.
Okay.
That's how I started.
All right. So of these that are here in front of us, which is the first one?
Oh, they're all within the last 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So would you talk about each one of them?
Well, I have an affinity for endangered animals, so I did this one called Save the Rhinos, and I learned how to teach myself through the internet how to do origami, which was kind of hard at the beginning, but then it worked out. And I also see the origami
Yes.
giraffe. I also decided to learn how to cut images through the Cricut machine, which
Okay, and will you briefly explain?
you can buy it's an automated Cricut machine that hooks up to your
Cricut, C-R-I-C-K.
CRICUT.
Oh, okay.
And you can buy them at Staples.
Okay.
No, Michael's,
Okay.
and Joanne Fabrics.
All right.
And of course, all the all the instructions are online. But I went to see a friend of mine up in Burlington, and we sat down, and she showed me how to work the Cricut. So you hook it up to your computer.
No, I'd rather have a person tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Than
Right.
go online.
So I learned how to do it, and it's been valuable because I just don't want to do all that minute cutting.
Right.
So
And so the theme of this, there are words there explaining your point of view, I guess.
yeah, because they're all the rhino is endangered because it's people poach for its
tusk.
horn, which is only made.
Oh, the one horn. It's called a horn.
Yeah, it's made out of keratin, which are your nails, and they do not offer any medicinal purposes whatsoever. But this kind of mythology goes way back, and it's still revered to be able to trade on the black market.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still very strong. And the same with the pangolin over here. That little guy is going to be extinct in a few years.
Oh, that gives a great idea of the folding. It's no longer flat.
Yeah.
It sits on a surface.
Yeah. It folds like this, closes.
Yes, which is quite wonderful too.
Well, that's also one of the appeals for me with book arts is to work with all the different constructions and folds. And
Right.
it's like building, but then everything collapses, and you've got to figure it out with all the different angles.
And so much of what you do can fold up the way a book does.
Oh, yeah.
Except for that piece
Except
right
for
there.
this. Yeah, this is the flexagon.
Yeah, that's
And this represents the quilters of the 19th century who are American and not well known at all. I represent people who are
What do you mean not well? You mean
They're not-
it wasn't considered an art
they're
form or
considered
what?
outsider artists, let's say. They don't
Oh.
they don't get a lot of attention.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
So you're giving attention. with this-
Marginalized artists, let's put it that way.
All right.
Yeah. So in here, I put, because it's a quilt. Oh, there we go.
And where did you get those
I
patterns?
put the little scissors and the cutting board.
Yeah, okay, that's a great close-up.
Yeah. This came from a book called something like Quilters. And just there are tons of women who have just done these beautiful designs.
And that's true in many different places, right?
Well, and
Quilters.
then, so this is the Quilts of Gee's Bend. And it's made up, it's called...
And can you explain what the quilts of Gee's Bend are?
The Quilts of Gee's Bend are these women who live in Alabama, And they make quilts. They were not discovered for many, many, many hundreds of years. They make quilts out of denim, cornmeal sacks, anything that they can find as materials.
Any fabric at all?
Yeah, and then they make their own compositions. And here they are.
And again, that's another piece that can be three-dimensional, but when it's folded, when it's folded a certain way, it becomes, again, like a book. It's flat.
There it is, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, can you turn it around a little? Right. So much fun.
Yeah, it's neat, actually.
I don't remember. I took a workshop.
I did teach this.
And I must have sent it as a birthday card to somebody. All the workshops I've taken with you, I've turned into birthday cards,
I
one
just-
way or another.
See, and then it all folds up.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Totally flat.
Yeah. I love the structure. Magic Star.
Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. And how many of those folds? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you can do it. No, there it is. Yeah, that's perfect. Now this one.
That is.
What is this one about?
This is, I learned this structure. I went to a book fair. I just pick up ideas as you move along.
Okay.
And I think it's called the Dragon.
Yes, and that's the one I still have. I haven't
Yeah.
sent as a birthday card. I can turn anything into a birthday.
I did a collaborative with Victoria Crane, who's a poet. Mm-hmm. So she made the haiku.
Ah,
It's reverence for our earth. And I always
reverence
wanted.
for our earth. Could you read one of those?
Okay. The most splendid earth, a magic sphere suspended in blue firmament. From the airy sky, sun, moon, and stars shower light, everyday glamour. On the clouds and blue, feathered flyers soar and swoop, envy all around.
It's lovely.
So these designs are from the Edo period in Japanese history. Because we lived there. There's also a reckoning of the fact.
And what period?
Edo, E-D-O.
Which means,
I don't know.
okay.
So I
But those particular patterns
Yes.
come from a period of time in
Yes.
Japan.
Yes. And then the cloth is also Japanese cloth. It's called Genji cloth.
Oh, the outside is cloth, not paper.
No, it's cloth.
So you can combine cloth and paper.
Well, this is specific for book art, so you would make an order at Talas, T-A-L-A-S, in Brooklyn. You can go online and see what they have for. It's because it has special gluing qualities in the back of it, the fabric.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you have to know your glue.
Oh yeah, that's always a challenge. Yeah.
Always a challenge. Why?
Because if you don't have the right glue, you can warp the paper, or it can seep through the paper, or it cannot adhere properly. As a matter of fact,
And might it adhere at first, but not after
Yeah.
6 months' time?
or
5 years'
some
time?
people really want to make everything archival, which is not quite so important nowadays, I find. And so if you're trying to look for archival glue, that definitely limits your choices.
So that the archival glue, is that available locally?
Probably not. You'd have to go through Dick Blick or one of those.
Oh, you could do it through one of the...
Yeah. Dick Blick.
Okay, all right. Is that where you order your things?
Most of my stuff, yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right, we've done your story, and we've done your past work and your present work. So I'm just wondering, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but do you see yourself in any way going in this direction and then all of a sudden taking a turn and going somewhere else?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I have ideas just float around my brain all the time for what to do next.
Do you journal? I'm curious.
No, I don't now. I don't. But I mean, the idea, this is like really strategic for me, to be crocheting, I've done it for years, and making Afghans, and then one day looking at the crocheting piece, oh, I could make a book out of this, was huge. That was a big leap.
Yes.
About a year ago. And it's been,
I don't think I've seen that.
you probably haven't. It's been received really well because I have 2 people who work and try to sell my books in the United States.
Okay.
And I've already sold one.
And I want to mention, I went with friends to Washington, D.C. a number of years ago. And we went to, I don't know the exact name, it's a women's art museum.
Yeah.
And at
Women's
the
History
end of our
Museum.
time there, I asked each of my friends what they liked the best. And Ginny said, the women's art. I mean, and we had been to, I mean, we'd witnessed what was going on in the Senate. We were right there in a balcony. We'd done all the Washington things, the art, National Gallery and such, but the women's art, she liked the best. And you have
I have
a piece.
Yeah, I do. That, honestly, when that happened was early in my book art career, and I was just shocked.
Well, somehow did you find out that it was possible to have your work there?
To be honest, I think you need to have somebody represent you. I mean, as an individual person trying to get into these collections on your own is difficult. So,
Okay.
It was.
Did you know somebody?
I'm represented by Vamp and Tramp in Alabama, and they have really like.
What? Say that again.
Vamp and Tramp.
What does that mean? What does vamp mean?
Well, that's me. They move. They used to have a truck, and they would go around all over the United States and with their books.
That is interesting.
This one they sold to the Smithsonian.
Ah, okay.
So they have access, and I don't.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So they're the ones who sold that first book for me.
Yesterday, instead of doing what I was supposed to do, I sat for a good part of the afternoon and went through Sabre Field's
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
And she would have sketches, gouache paintings in her sketchbook, and then she'd perhaps have a piece of classic art by Rembrandt or Edward Hop or somebody more contemporary, and then she'd have her work larger in the book. And I just found it interesting. Do you have a process? For instance, when you start out with the endangered animals, do you go right to the animals? Do you go with a text? Do you go with large shapes? I mean, what is your process? Or is it different for everyone?
A bit of both.
Oh, okay, all right.
I like to challenge myself with, like, say, the origami. I would just start making origami if I knew I was going to do rhinos. And I find it.
So you didn't know anything about origami before you started that?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No, each one is different too, and you do it through your computer, and then they have the little demonstrations, and so they go fast, and then you just stop them and pause, and then you go back, and you just keep going.
So you didn't know, you taught yourself how to do that?
Well,
You're self-taught to a great degree, right?
I guess. I mean, yeah.
I mean, you've taken art classes in different places over the years. But then you're talking about you didn't learn origami when you took art classes.
No.
No.
No. But it's really pretty simple when you go on the internet. You just Google origami.
You can. You can learn to do anything, can't you? Yes, you can.
Yeah. The Cricut machine was a little more difficult, but...
But again, you taught yourself to use it?
No, I went up for a 5-hour in-depth study with my friend Anne in Burlington, and that helped me tremendously.
Okay.
But that was about 5 years ago, and I use it randomly, so I have to start to relearn it, you know. But it comes back.
Yeah, I know about relearn, yes.
And the Magic Star, I mean, I saw this at a book fair, Unbound in Miami 2 years ago, and I just loved it. And she said, well, Carolyn, just Google Magic Star.
Right.
So that's what happened.
I would happily take another workshop, Magic Star, because that lends itself to all kinds of, I mean, you could have things popping up and out.
You could, yeah.
And you could cut out shapes.
I think
And
that's
you
the
could
neat
paint.
thing about book arts is that it's ongoing, and
Right.
you continue the conversation through all
Right.
these different
Right.
structures.
Molly can't take one of your workshops. My cousin, who said when I told her about the workshop that I took with you recently, who said, maybe I need to do that.
Yeah, I don't do Zoom though.
Oh, you don't do, that's,
No.
would you do Zoom?
No, I don't think so. I've never thought about it actually. We just have
Well, Ann Buffum was, and maybe still is, doing watercolor painting
by Zoom.
with people from Scotland.
Yeah.
I think the teachers in Scotland and other places. You have something to share here. I mean, consider Zoom. Then Molly could take.
Okay, I'll consider it. I would like to just mention one thing about
Yes, go ahead.
when I work on a flat horizontal surface with my collage and printing. This is very familiar for me. But, you know, when you think about book arts, all you're really doing is flipping it to the vertical. All these collage items placed, then you flip it to the vertical, and then it activates more as book arts. It was an easy transition for me to do that.
But these aren't vertical, these are horizontal. I don't know what you mean by vertical.
Well, just the process of thinking about placing all these different pieces of collage on a horizontal surface, and then
Okay,
and then being
and there's
able
the
to
giraffe that,
then being able to
Yes.
manipulate it.
right.
Yeah, and I started off really simple, like the accordion book. You know, and then there's just lots of information out there. I mean, you wouldn't believe what's going on with the book art world now. I think it's really taken off.
So just Google book art and see what comes up.
In the last 10, 15 years, it's just taken off. It used to be letterpress. That was very solid. You could actually take an undergraduate degree for that. And now it's just expanded to people like me who don't come from that
Okay.
area.
Well, since we're near the end, what I wanted to show, I'm not sure how this is going to show up. And it's not finished, I have to say this. But this is what I learned to do. And this isn't going to come across well, but anyway, I have to finish this. But my cousin's birthday is in September. So I told her I'd made her a card. So what can happen is that, all right, here we have, it's a happy birthday card. I think you can see that.
And it's
And-
a flag book.
And it's a flag book, yes, of course. And then there's a sun, because she's full of sunshine and bright ideas. And then there's a section that says, there are 4 girls. Mallory, Molly, and Mary, and Kay went down to the beach to play one day. Now, let's see, okay, and then it comes up here. These are pieces that Molly has had on her notepaper. And then since Philadelphia is the city nearest to her, and we've done a lot in Philadelphia, I cut up the Declaration of Independence, and then at the end, I'm going to have more of Molly's work. So anyway, this sits, I can't do it, but this sits on a surface.
You could put it
Yes,
right there.
okay. Here it is. I'm not sure if that shows up better.
Just needs
No,
more
it,
folding.
well, there, okay. There's Happy Birthday with the little girl and ice cream. And so, anyway, that's my flag book. And I need to finish it now, because I've still got the enthusiasm. And I've
Yes.
got the pieces to glue, and I can
And
figure
then
this all
We'll
out.
meet in March.
In March.
Yeah.
Yes, we're meeting March 20th.
At the Godnick Center.
Yes,
And people, all the
3 p.m.
students are
A little food and drink.
students are going to bring in their
Their book art.
Their book arts.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.